The two-seater EA-18G was cruising at 25,000 feet January 29th, about 60 miles south of Seattle on a flight from Washington State's Naval Air Station Whidbey Island to Naval Weapons Station China Lake. The crew received a warning that the system that controls the cockpit air temperature and cabin pressure, known as the environmental control system, was icing. By the time the flight was over, an elite aircrew with Air Test and Evaluation Squadron 9 was being rushed for medical treatment, in yet another failure of the EA-18G Growler's environmental control system, one not seen in any of the previous physiological episodes linked to the X, was raising new concerns in the Navy's Sisyphean fight to stop physiological episodes from putting pilots at risk in the sky. The temperature inside the cockpit suddenly plunged to temperatures reaching -30 degrees, and a mist pumped into the cockpit, covering the instruments and windows in a layer of ice, rendering the pilots almost completely blind, according to several sources familiar with the incident and an internal report obtained by Defense News. The fog inside the aircraft iced over the instrument panel, forcing the pilot and electronic warfare officer to use a Garmin watch to keep track of their heading and altitude while air controllers began relaying instructions to the crew. The pilot and EWO were forced to use the emergency oxygen supply, which was completely depleted by the end of the flight. A heroic effort by the two-person crew and the ground-based controllers managed to guide the aircraft back to Whidbey Island, but both pilot and EWO suffered serious injuries due to frostbite. The aircrew suffered from severe blistering and burns on hands, according to the Navy internal report. In a statement, Naval Air Forces spokesman Commander Ron Flanders confirmed the incident and that the Navy was trying to determine the cause of the incident. The aircrew was treated upon landing. One of the aircrew is already back in a flight status, the other is not yet back in a flight status but is expected to make a complete recovery. The mishap is under investigation. I cannot comment further. Once the investigation is complete, the Navy will determine which further actions are necessary. While the specific failure of the environmental control system in this instance hasn't been recorded by the Navy previously, the ECS has been a persistent problem as it grapples with the recent spike in PEs in Hornets and Growlers. The Navy describes the system as a complex aggregate of subcomponents, all of which must function for the system to work as a whole. The Navy believes that aging parts and inadequate testing procedures have contributed to certain PEs that result from depressurization inside the cockpit and oxygen deprivation. But overpressurization has also been a problem. 2 years ago, a pilot and EWO were horrifically injured when their cockpit overpressurized and exploded, shattering the plexiglass canopy and sending shards in all directions. Overall, about 25% of the PEs suffered by aircrews in the Super Hornets and the Growlers have been traced back to ECS failures, according to a Navy official who spoke on background. Those numbers were much higher in the Legacy Hornets. Meanwhile, the head of the Navy's Physiological Episodes Action Team, Sarah Clutch Joyner, is being pulled from the project after less than a year in the position and is taking a job on the Joint Staff, raising some alarm bells in Congress. Her replacement has not been named. PEs have wreaked havoc in the aviation community. In 2016, the Navy had its worst year on record for PEs, including 125 total in the Growler Hornet community. Last April, Navy instructor pilots staged a borderline mutiny when they felt like their supervisors were ignoring serious PE problems with the Navy's T-45 aircraft. The Navy has since made progress in T-45 PE incidents, but the revolt of the instructor pilots grabbed the attention of senior leadership and made the PE issue front and center. But definitive answers as to what is causing this spike in PEs are elusive, and the Navy is continuing to chip away at the issue. Joyner has said that she doesn't believe there is one solution for all the pay issues, but that the Navy has made progress in some areas.
Okay, boom, you are cleared to extend.
Alright, trailing hoses down. And could you tell me the offload one more time, please?
23.
Copy.
11.5 apiece.
Alright, just set my preload or preset.
extra gas? I guess we do. Like 5K. How much do they have left?
I got visual of the third receiver. I'm pretty sure that's him. He's a dot right now.
We have 8.2 to give them.
8.2, copy.
Yep.
Receiver's backing out. Well, clear.